Good afternoon, students. So, welcome you to the session on performance evaluation of mutual funds. Well, in the past classes, we discussed a risk and return analysis, and even we discussed how do we calculate standard deviation and what is the relevance of risk profiling. Now, based upon those fundamental discussions, we shall move ahead with our discussion on performance evaluation. Now, we have discussed mutual fund is one best alternative investment asset for creating wealth and better financial planning. But in the present context, we have got n number of options, n number of mutual fund schemes, and n number of mutual fund companies. Then, how do we make the selection? Because your main goal is to preserve your principal and create the wealth for the future. So now, over a period of time, researchers and financial wizards have given various measures to evaluate the performance of your mutual fund. And basically, we have got three important ratios or three important evaluation matrices which we use. And later, we have got another three which are assumed to be the latest development and addition to the evaluation of mutual funds. So, today we shall discuss in brief the Sharpe, Jensen, and Trainers measure for performance evaluation of mutual funds. So it depends, and obviously it is your own selection of mutual funds, and you have to have a data which is genuine and rational for doing this analysis purpose. So we shall have a different tools and different evaluation measures for doing this, and will consider all these based upon these assumptions. So, as we said, and as we have discussed classic financial theories and other financial models, so most of financial models are based upon certain assumptions, and those assumptions we have to fulfill in order to arrive at the rational and logical outcome to it. So, what are the assumptions applicable to these evaluation matrices? So, as we have discussed, a risk averse behavior of investor is obviously assumed in this model. All investors are averse to risk and are single period expected utility of terminal wealth maximizers. So this is the basic and most fundamental assumption related to any financial modeling. Whenever risk is taken and expected return is assumed, we have to take it in the single period. But in the next period, when the risk increases, obviously the expected return also increases. And why is it? Because your investors are having a common goal of wealth maximization. So, based upon that, most of or almost all the investors presume a risk averse profile. The second assumption is all investors have identical decision horizons and homogeneous expectations regarding investment opportunities. So, as we mentioned, this performance evaluation could be done for 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, or down the line 10 years. But obviously, whenever you do performance evaluation, it will be on the homogeneous. If you're doing for 1 year, all the funds should be analyzed and measured on 1 year. But if you're doing it for 3 years, it should be always done for 3 years. And obviously, your investors would identify the investment opportunities in that horizon time interval. So this is the second assumption what we have made. The third assumption is all investors are able to choose among the portfolios solely on the basis of expected returns and variance of the return. So as we did the risk and return analysis, because this is the basic fundamental, and while choosing your portfolio or your mutual fund, you have to rely upon this risk return or variance of your returns what you expect. And that was the reason we studied the different measures of returns and different aspects of your risk analysis. And based upon that, you're trying to select a mutual fund which is trying to fulfill your requirements and trying to suit your future expectations. All transaction, that is all transactions cost and taxes are zero. So as we again assume, all transactions are having no cost, and we live in a world wherein there are no taxes, but this is again assumption, because you take mutual fund, it has got its own expenses. So even though if it is negligible, but still it is not zero cost, it has the cost. But to develop these scenarios, we have to assume it, and that is the reason we are trying to make the assumption of no cost and no tax related to your transactions. And all assets are indefinitely or infinitely divisible. So you don't have to rely upon the lots or a specific size. Your asset is made available to your requirement as per your choice and as per your requirement. But again, having said this, in case of mutual fund, you cannot make investment less than 500 rupee. You have to stick to that minimum investment, and then you have to go on adding on your investment amount as such. So again, all these assumptions are considered from the idealistic point of view, and these are required in order to make your model more suitable and rational in that regard. So based upon these assumptions, we further go ahead and discuss how Sharpe, Jensen and Trainer's ratios are used in order to find out the relevant portfolios or the mutual fund for your investment purpose. Now, this Sharpe ratio, it was again given by the William Sharpe, the famous and most renowned financial wizard. The Sharpe ratio tells us whether the returns of a portfolio are due to smart investment decisions or a result of excess risk. So, as we have studied the meaning of risk premium, and even we have assumed your investors are risk averse. So there are two possibilities to get higher return. One thing is you are smart, and smart in the sense you have got better or more knowledge or information than the market or rest of the players, or else you are taken up the higher risk, and to accommodate this higher risk you are going to get the high return. So these are the two possibilities what Sharpe has considered. And how do we measure it? This measurement is very useful because although one portfolio or fund can reap higher returns than its peers, it is only a good investment if those higher returns do not come with too much additional risk and your smart investment. It should be level playing game, and that is the reason the Sharpe ratio obviously considers overall risk, and it compares your portfolio return with the risk-free return. And if you are taking additional risk, then what is the additional or marginal return or gain you are making it? So in order to know this ratio is introduced. And what do we say? The greater a portfolio Sharpe ratio, the better its risk adjusted performance has been considered to be. So when you are comparing or when you are trying to assess two portfolios, then you have to select the portfolio or mutual fund with a higher Sharpe ratio, because it indicates your mutual fund has better risk adjusted performance intensity or capability than the other one. And this is where the Sharpe comes into action. A fund with higher Sharpe ratio in relation to another is preferable, as it indicates that the fund has higher risk premium for every unit of standard deviation risk what we consider. So this is what we said, and this is what the ratio measures. If you take additional risk, and that additional risk should always give you a better risk premium. Otherwise, it is not worthwhile to consider a risk which diminishes your original return. And that is the reason your investors or all these models are considered from the risk averse investor perspective. So when you look at the equation, is this. So a Sharpe ratio or SR, as we abbreviate or represent, is equal to RP minus RF divided by sigma P. So what is RP? It is the a rate of return of your mutual fund, or it is the rate of return of your portfolio, that is RP. And what is RF? It is the risk free rate. So you can take up the risk free rate proxy as treasury bill of 91 days or treasury bill of 90 uh, treasury bill of 182 days, or else you can take up the bank fixed deposit rate in the Indian context. But usually we take up the treasury bill rate as a risk free rate for a measure. And what is sigma P? It is a standard deviation of your past returns, what your mutual fund has realized it. And that was the reason, as we said, when we did the standard deviation analysis, you might have to calculate the standard deviation based upon the NAV, and then you have to arrive both at your portfolio return and the portfolio risk. So this is what the Sharpe ratio is all about, and it gives you the risk premium on the overall risk, because standard deviation is overall the total risk. It is not the bifurcation of systematic and unsystematic. So it is sum total of both systematic and non or unsystematic risk as such. And that is the reason the Sharpe ratio is more commonly used and used or employed parameter in the mutual fund performance evaluation. Even if you look at fact sheet of any mutual fund company, you always get a Sharpe ratio, but a rare case wherein you get the trainer or the Jensen or the other ratios, because those are considered from other inputs and other perspectives. As we go along, we'll have a discussion on it. But this is what the Sharpe ratio is all about. So it considers your risk premium, and risk premium is nothing but it is the difference between the return what you get on a risky investment minus the risk-free return what you get from the not risk-oriented asset, and your RP or your portfolio has got a better return, then it is worthwhile to invest in the risky assets. Otherwise, you're better off by investing in the risk-free assets and enjoy the principles and the return safety. But only thing, it may not create wealth for the future. It will steadily give you that approximated return in the form of inflation adjusted returns as such. So this is all about the Sharpe's ratio while computing or measuring your portfolio. The next one, the trainers or the trainers index. What we did in the Sharpe, we took the overall risk, that is the sum total of your systematic and systematic, but several investors, several research fraternity people, they assume it is not the overall risk, because your portfolio is there to reduce the risk and take up only that risk which is not manageable or not controllable. And in that regard, this trainers ratio has emerged. So, what is it? The trainer ratio measures returns earned in excess of that which could have been earned on a riskless investment per each unit of market risk. So, market risk is nothing but your beta, and your trainer ratio is going to consider your beta rather than the overall risk or the standard deviation. So the trainer ratio, sometimes also called as a reward to volatility ratio, relates to excess return over the risk-free rate to the additional risk taken. However, systematic risk instead of total risk is used. So as we said, so in this regard, we are going to only use systematic risk, not the total risk. The higher the trainer ratio, the better the performance measure. So the same principle applicable even in your Sharpe's ratio. So here your Sharpe's equation has been modified. So your numerator denominator have got some differences. So your numerator remains the same, that is RP minus RF, that is the risk premium. RP is the return on your mutual fund. RF is the risk free rate. Here your denominator, that is the base, is a beta P, nothing but the beta of a mutual fund. So what we have to do, we have to calculate the beta of your mutual fund, and you have to compare it with your market risk, and we have to do the analysis on this regard. So this is the next improved version of portfolio evaluation. And what are we trying to do over here? We're trying to consider only the systematic risk, and we are not considering the overall risk. And why is it? Because as per our classic financial theories, or as per our Markovich theorem, so we have got randomness, and even we have got say clear distinction between the risky and the non-risky investments. And you can create a portfolio wherein you can select those asset classes which will minimize your risk to a greater level, and you'll be taking only that risk which is trying to pay you off better as you are bearing it. And that was the context, or that was the argument what trainer did on the Sharpe ratio, because Sharpe said you have to consider the overall or the total risk, which is represented by the standard deviation of your portfolio. But here, trainer did the adjustment. Instead of going for entire risk or the total risk, he considered only the systematic risk, and that is evitable for all risky asset investment classes as such. So here also, if you're comparing two mutual funds, then obviously you have to take up that mutual fund which gives you the higher trainer ratio, that is the TR. So this is what all about your trainers and Sharpe's ratio of performance evaluation of your mutual fund. So we'll try to take a brief overview of it, and then later we shall move ahead with the further discussion. Why did we want to consider a review over here? Because these are the two most important and commonly used measures. We have got other measures, and we'll use them accordingly as we do it. So now here, what is Sharpe ratio? The description is given. So a Sharpe ratio is equal to fund return in excess of risk-free return, that is your RP minus RF, divided by standard deviation of the fund. Sharpe ratios are ideal for comparing funds that have a mixed asset classes. So this is where our discussion comes in handy. As we said, your total risk need to be considered accordingly. And why do we need to consider it? Because when we have got a portfolio or a mutual fund with a mixed asset classes, then it becomes evitable to consider the Sharpe's ratio. And how do we interpret it? The higher the Sharpe ratio, the better a fund's return relative to the amount of risk taken, because we are here resuming and considering the total risk, not only one part or one component of the risk. So that is the reason when you have got calculation or when you're comparing your mutual funds, so you choose that mutual fund which has got the higher Sharpe ratio, and that indicates the better performance of your mutual fund over the other competing funds. So this is about the Sharpe's ratio, about the description and the interpretation. So the next comes is your trainer's ratio. Now, your trainer ratio is given by fund return in excess of risk-free return, that is again risk premium, divided by the beta of your fund. And trainer ratio indicates relative measure of your market risk. Now, why do we need to use this? Your market assumes to be perfect, it is assumes to be ideal, and here market refers to your benchmark index. uh, Basically, depending upon your type of mutual fund, your market benchmark will be decided. But again, for our own simplicity, we assume we have invested in the equity mutual funds, and those mutual funds have considered BSE or NSE as their market indices or the market benchmarks. So the beta of your Bombay Stock Exchange or beta of your National Stock Exchange index is obviously 1 because your beta has got three possible outcomes. Your beta will be perfectly 1, which is assumed to be the ideal or the neutral stage. Your beta would be greater than 1, so it assumes your asset has got higher risk and higher capability of giving you return than the ideal market. And if your beta is less than 1, so it assumes your beta or your asset is defensive, and it will give you the less return as compared to the market at any instance. So we shall be discussing it in the further. But this is what the argument or the implication of your trainers ratio is. So trainers ratio is considering beta as systematic risk or the relative risk rather than the total risk which is considered by the Sharpe. Now further, we discussed what is standard deviation and what is this beta is all about, and why is it important to consider both of them. So now here, standard deviation allows us to evaluate the volatility of our fund. It is nothing but the fluctuation or the deviation realized by our asset. The standard deviation of a fund measures the risk by measuring the degree to which the fund fluctuates in relation to the mean return. So we need to consider the historical performance of your mutual fund, and based upon that historical mutual fund returns, we have to compute the average return. And based upon those data input, you have to calculate the standard deviation. So you compute the standard deviation and you try to fit it into the normal distribution curve with that average return. And if your standard deviation is assumed to be high, then obviously our fund is not consistent, or our portfolio or mutual fund is not promising one when it comes to its steadiness and consistency. Because when we go from a statistical and mathematical perspective, your standard deviation of 3 or above 3 will be considered inconsistent, and we have to have a lower standard deviation in order to give better performance or better consistent return as such. And what is the interpretation? Should be near to its mean return. So as you mentioned, you're going to compute the return on your portfolio, and that return and your standard deviation must be equal to each other so that they show the consistency. Or in the best way, your standard deviation should be always less than your considered average mean return what your fund has realized it. So this is the meaning of your standard deviation. The next is beta, which is nothing but the relative systematic risk applicable to any asset. Beta is fairly commonly used measure of risk. It basically indicates the level of volatility associated with the fund as compared to the benchmark. So as we mentioned, your beta is applicable to your asset itself, and even it is applicable to the benchmark, the standard to which you try to measure your performance. And as we said, your beta has got three outcomes. Beta greater than 1 is highly risky. So it means your beta has got higher variability when it comes to your market fluctuation, but at the same time it has got inherent capacity to give you a better return when the market is better and steady. That is the meaning of greater than 1 beta or high risk beta. Beta equal to 1 assumes to be equal or average or neutral. So we cannot identify what is better, the asset uh, class is better or the market index is better, because both have got beta is equal to 1. But there is one more beta classification, and it is called as defensive beta, because your beta is low risky, it is less than 1. Like in the first case, beta was aggressive, it was greater than 1, but here it is beta is less than 1, so it shows defensive or low risky nature of it. And even as the risk is low, the return possibility is also low as compared to your market index or your standard benchmark. So this is what we use in our Sharpe ratio and trainer ratio for the calculation purpose. And what we shall do now, we shall consider all these equations, all these formulas, and try to arrive at computation of mutual funds. So in the next session, what do? We try to make a discussion on these two ratios by taking numerical examples, and we'll try to give them a priority rating, and based upon that, we'll try to arrive at the best fund available in the market. So this is what the conceptual view about your trainers and Sharpe's ratio, and these are the most commonly used and followed measures in the performance evaluation of your mutual funds. So we would stop over here in this session, and in the next session we shall consider calculation on the same. And further, we go ahead with the information ratio, Jensen's alpha ratio, Sortino ratio, Pharma ratio, M2 ratio, and the other advanced and newly introduced performance evaluation measures on your mutual fund. But most commonly, these are the two, Sharpe and the trainer, are used by the mutual fund community and the investors at large. So I would stop it over here, and we shall continue our discussion in the next class with numerical examples on the given ratios on the given indices as such. Thank you so much. We see you in the next class.